Hey, what's up, everybody? If you're watching this, you're a patron of mine. So, first off, thank you for being a patron of mine, especially when we don't have real life tournaments going on. I really do appreciate it. And I wanted to make a special video for you all, and about the Pog 2020 tournament. So, any questions that you guys had, and even some questions that weren't directly from my patrons, but things that I saw the community talking about a lot, I figured I'd address tonight. It's Thursday right now, so I'll be uploading this as soon as I'm done recording it. And so these are kind of my almost last minute thoughts. I usually will do some last minute thoughts the night before, or maybe 4 hours before deck lists are due. But I wanted to give you enough time with these last minute thoughts, so if you wanted to make your deck decision based off of something I say, or if you're on the fence between two decks, and maybe I can help you make that decision, or make a tech, or feel more confident in the deck that you're going with. A couple things I do want to say is, if you're feeling confident with a deck, don't let last minute meta shifts throw you off of that deck. If a meta shift, let's say a deck sees 5% less play and another deck fills that 5% play, it's not going to change how you would do. I mean, you could potentially hit the same deck 9 times. You could hit 9 different decks regardless of what the meta looks like. It's all fairly random, and also it relies on which decks are doing well, and are you in the winning side or the losing side, and which decks you're hitting, how many are in your record. So just, the meta shifts are great to follow. Like, if you have 3 decks you're deciding between, and watching how the meta is shifting, with the tournaments like the Hexter TCG tournament I played in, or the Sunday Open, things like that. If you have 3 decks that you feel really good about, and watching those last minute meta shifts can help you decide on one of them, that's what I suggest doing. I wouldn't pick a deck out of nowhere that you've never played before because you saw a cool list or something, or like Dragapult's back and now you don't want to play your X, Y, or Z deck, so you have to throw together something new. I wouldn't make rash decisions like that. So yeah, let's start with some questions. This one comes from my boy Jake Keebler, asking, is Eternatus the best play? And what are some weak matchups for it? So I don't think Eternatus is the best play. It's really hard for me to say anything is the best play, especially for day one, because the matchup spreads are so close to each other, and I think this is going to be such a diverse meta. I actually do not have a completed matchup spreadsheet because I felt that testing and playing and just laddering was more valuable of my time, and I could get more valuable information for you all. Because let's look at, we'll get back to Jake's original question, but let's look at the Rebel Clash meta. We had almost 50% of day one metas being made up of 3 or 4 decks. That's probably not going to happen here, because in the Rebel Clash meta we had Baby Blown, Pika Rom, Dragapult, then Combo Z and Spirit Tomb, and then everything else was just way lower. And ADPZ actually got knocked out of tier 1 in the Rebel Clash meta, but we had Baby Blown, Pika, Drag taking up a large chunk of the meta, and you kind of had to be prepared to outright beat 2 of them and take the loss to the other, or try to beat all 3 of them. And I don't think it's like that for the Pog 2020 format, because we've got ADPZ, Eternatus, Vika variants, Baby Blown, Centiscorch, Pika Rom, other Zacian variants like Combo and Luke Metal. We've got Mill, we've got Dragapult that is not dead. I've been seeing a fair amount of Obstagoon pop up. We have multiple alternatives variants, so also keep that in mind. So we don't just have the 3 big ones. We have a lot of decks that are very similar in power level, and also fairly similar in matchup spreads. So it's really hard for me to say that there is a best play. I think ADPZ has the most chance, the matchups that are most winnable. ADPZ has a fairly 50-50 or better across the board matchup spread, maybe even some 45-55s, but it has a lot of very winnable matchups. regardless of what it's playing against. But keep in mind, a 50-50 deck could mean you go 5-5. That's 50-50. Some people take that the wrong way, and they're like, oh, I'm playing a 50-50 deck, so, you know, I'm not going to lose. No, it means sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, and you have to try to come out on the luckier side of that. So, is Eternatus the best play? No. And what are some weak matchups for it? It seems like Centiskorch is generally not an amazing matchup. I'd say Centiskorch versus Etern is slightly Centiskorch favored, and I'd also say Baby Blown versus Eternatus is Baby Blown favored. Mill and Control are both favored versus Eternatus, but I don't expect a ton of that. And Lucario Melmetal is favored versus Eternatus. So the big ones are Baby Blown and Senti. Baby Blown's a bad matchup, and Senti's just a little unfavored. And then Lucametal is also unfavored. Control and Mill don't expect a ton of that in day one. Yeah, let's go on to the next one. How good is Decidueye, and what version of the deck is the best? I haven't played at all with Decidueye Obstagoon. I've played with Obstagoon, I've played with Decidueye, not Decidueye Obstagoon, so I don't have much of a comment on that, but my Twitch chat has been telling me that Obstagoon Decidueye is like just a better of the two because it's a combination, but I find that hard to believe. I think Decidueye is fine, and I think Obstagoon is fine. Obstagoon can beat ADPZ even if it has a Mawile in it. Obstagoon can beat Eternatus because you go Doom Count and then you go Sable IV. Beats Baby Blown's pretty favorably. So, I think those wall decks, they're not really wall decks, they're like attackers that are a wall. A few of those will always slide through because they'll hit people that didn't tech for it. And, you know, that's fine. I don't think it's like an insane play, but they should be pretty good. If you hit the right matchups and people not teching for it, of course. Someone asked if the smaller tournament results would affect the meta for the Pog, like the Hexter TCG, the Poca X, the Sunday Open. Yes, because it's all we have. Like the Hexter TCG was a 64-person tournament. It had some big names. Altavia played, Finnegan Lynch played, Mike Fouché played. But it's just 64 people, and like you'll see some of the players that like Lucametal decided to play a Lucametal. They hit favorable matchups. They all made top 8. Cash, who got second with Dragapult, likes Dragapult. He was like, you know what, we'll take the loss to Eternatus. Hit 0 Eternatus, 1702 into finals. So those are also much smaller meta games, so the sample size is smaller. You don't have as much of a chance to hit every single deck because in a 64-person tournament, not every deck's going to be represented. Like in a 1,000-person tournament, every deck's going to get some representation from just the mass number of people. So take those results with, I guess, a few grains of salt because it's all we really have. Hope that answers that question. How do you feel about Vikavolt hype and its matchups? I think the deck's okay, but if your opponents are both playing correctly, don't get unlucky, and they're playing either Birdkeeper, Malolana, or both, then they handle your deck fairly well. Vikavolt's good. It'll make day 2. That's another thing I want to say. Every deck I'm talking about, like, is going to get somebody into day 2. Like, ADPZ, Eternatus, Vika variants, Baby Blowns, Mill, Eternatus, Pika Rom, Dragapult, Combo Zosh, Lucametal, Decidueye. Like, I would be completely surprised if any of those decks I just mentioned didn't get at least one person into day 2 from either of the pods in day 1 of POG 2020. Now, of course, which ones will have the best success rates, that usually depends on how the meta actually panned out, who decided to bring what the night before, what players played the decks in large groups, and yeah, but all the decks will get somebody into day 2. Like, none of these decks in Tier 1 and Tier 2 are bad. That's why they're in Tier 1 and Tier 2. I highly expect all of them to get somebody into day 2. Whether they will keep that deck into day 2, I don't know, because you can change your deck between day 1 and day 2. But that's something to remember. Like, if you really like ADPZ, just go for it. Try to be one of the many people that will make day 2 with ADPZ. If you like Decidueye and you feel really comfortable, you know which matchups you win and how to win them, you know which matchups you lose and that you have to take that. Try to be one of the few people that will make day 2 with Decidueye, probably. You know, it's easy to psych yourself out, it's hard to stay confident. Let's see what else we've got. This is in terms of baby Blounds. Do you think Brock's Grit would be worthwhile one of for the Vikavolt matchup, or do you accept the loss? This was actually a patron question that I ended up responding to, but also wanted to put in the video for everyone. I said if I were to play Blounds, I would accept the loss to Vika, unless I found a convincing tech for the matchup that wasn't useless elsewhere. Like, I would not want to put Brock's Grit in there, because I don't even know if that would win the Vika matchup. But, like, I've been saying this in my writing, in my videos, and my streams, Birdkeeper is such a good card, because it's technically a tech for Vikavolt, but it's also a draw and switch card, so it's always good, but it also helps specifically in one matchup. So, try to find a tech that either shores up that matchup, it does what it's supposed to do consistently, or it's good against multiple things. How seriously would you consider adding Zamazenta back into Zacian, or ADP Zacian, to help with the Eternatus and Scorch matchups? I think Zamazenta is very good in Lucario because you go full Metal Wall and you have Metal Frying Pan, and so they need a 290 one-shot you when you don't have weakness, versus Senta Scorch. I don't like it but I don't like Zamazenta anymore in ADP Zacian. I've realized that Mawile GX is better. I completely think that Mawile GX is better. Now, if you want the Zamazenta for Dragapult VMAX specifically, then Zamazenta is better than Mawile. I kind of look at it like this. Mawile's good against a turn and kind of good versus Senta Scorch. Zamazenta is good versus Draga and kind of good versus Senta Scorch. They're both kind of good versus Senta Scorch, and then they have another specific matchup where I believe they shine. So you have to pick which one you want to be better against. Also, Mawile GX is a soft counter to Obstagoon and Decidueye, and it can really just screw anybody up when you catch them off guard with the Dene, Crobat, Eldegoss in their hand, and you happen to play down just a random Mawile because it's in your hand, you're going to research it away, or you have a Cherish Ball, you want to attack with it this game. It's a very efficient attacker, probably good in combo Zacian as well. But yeah, I don't like Zamazenta in ADPZ. If you find the room and you want to tech for all of those at one time, then play Zamazenta and Mawile. Personally, I don't in my list. Sorry, I have questions that came in everywhere. Discord, Patreon, and that's fine. Wherever you want to send them in the future for things like this. As long as you get your questions to me, I'm happy to help. Let's see. Okay, yeah. I thought I had another one in here. Oh, this one was also about Zamazenta in ADPZ. This one's about, so some people, I've gotten multiple messages about Lucario Melmetal, having 3 of them in the Hexter tournament last night. I think Lucario Melmetal is good. We talked about this in the meta discussion, actually. Myself, Kevin, Mike, and Danny. That Lucario Melmetal has been underrated this whole time. It got top 16 at the Japanese online tournament that I started talking about on YouTube over a month ago, and everybody kind of just swept that under the rug. Yeah, like, Lucario Melmetal's solid. It can beat Senta Scorch VMAX with double Zam Metal Frying Pan. It's good against Eternatus. It's weird versus ADPZ, but winnable for both sides. Really good against Dragapult. I don't think they ever win that. Yeah, so am I selling Lucario to you right now? Kind of. I think Lucametal's good, but it's less consistent. It's clunky. You'll get some games where you just don't do what your deck was supposed to do. Whereas with Sleepy Veek with the tag call engine and ADPZ, I feel like you do what you want to do most games. Lucametal has a bit of an impressive matchup spread, depending on which decks you want to beat. It's honestly good against a lot of stuff right now, Lucario Melmetal. But it can clunk. It can definitely clunk. Yeah, my top choice right now is still ADPZ. I am a Lucario Melmetal fan. For all of you guys that have been following me for a while, you'll know that I am you'll know, sorry, I got another Twitter DM, so I thought someone was sending in a last minute message for the video. Yeah, so you'll know that I'm a Luke Metal fan, so I do like Luke Metal, but it was clunking up today when I started trying it out for Pog, because it wasn't one of the things I was testing a lot, just because I have prior experience with it, but now with the multiple Zamazentas, the meta being a little different, I definitely wanted to get some testing in with it before I started making decisions. But my first choice is still my ADPZ list, most recently from Patreon. I'm really comfortable with that list. I also like Centiskorch VMAX, the newer list that I've put in my spreadsheet with the giant bombs in it. But I don't think I could see myself playing Centiskorch. I think right now I'm defaulting on ADPZ, and it's not a bad deck to default on. It's very good. It can beat anything. Optimal sequencing always helps. Luke Metal, I like the matchup spread, but the games, I like it on paper more than I like it when I'm actually playing it. I should say it like that. Sleepy Vika, it's underwhelming versus good players who are prepared for Vikavolt. It's very good versus people who are not prepared for Vikavolt and who are not going to play optimally versus Vikavolt. It's very good because you just run away with games because they don't do anything. I think that's honestly most Vikavolts. Because you get to control them a bit. So I think that's all of my thoughts regarding questions and comments that I've gotten. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. We talked about the Baby Browns, the ADPZ, the Eternatus. Yeah, just if anybody has more questions, make sure you contact me, and I'm happy to help with your lists or anything like that. But remember what I was saying, like, don't psych yourself out. It's very easy to say, it's hard to do. And it's definitely great to watch the meta shifts, but don't let, like, 3 friends who are now playing Dragapult change your entire mind on what you were going to play just because people found out Dragapult's not dead. You know, just an example. People are, you know, hopping onto Luke Metal and Dragapult and off of other decks and onto this and onto that. So try to stay your ground. Choose a deck you're comfortable with. If you feel very experienced and think you can just pick up a deck, then go for it. You know yourself better than I do. And like I said, if you need any advice or anything, deck list, final, tech decision, 61st card, what do I think will be played, how do I think this will be played, hit me up, and I will get back to everyone before tomorrow night. So like if you reach out to me by noon Eastern tomorrow, I will get back to everyone like by the evening, so everybody has their like help and advice and, you know, any kind of conversation before you have to submit your deck lists and whatnot for Pog. So for those of you who I will not speak to and are competing in the Pog 2020 Atlas Championships, good luck. I hope you all do well, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, and thank you for being a patron.